Welcome back to the channel, guys, or if you're new here, welcome to the channel. We're gonna get right into this one today. Today's effect was inspired by this Billie Eilish Takashi Murakami sculpture image that I stumbled across here. Really awesome look with this split face. So I'm gonna show you a basic recreation of that within Adobe After Effects, and I'm gonna show you where you can kind of leverage it to add in whatever you want. If you're interested, follow me on Instagram. I'm gonna be posting a lot more personal work and trying to push a lot more Instagram content this year. I've also been posting a lot of behind the scenes on my Instagram stories if you want to check that out. To create this effect, you're going to need footage that isn't turning the face too much. You're going to need something where, as you see, here's my raw clip, and I basically just looped it at the end, so I'll show you how to do that later. But this is what we're starting with. Literally barely even a second long clip of just a face. So if you don't have a clip like that, use your phone, put your camera on a tripod, take some footage of a straightforward portrait face. You don't want to be turning the angle too much or it'll be difficult to get this look. Or alternatively, you guys can go to a stock footage website, something like pexels.com. There's a lot of free options there. So once you have your footage, let's go ahead and hop into Adobe After Effects. So I'm going to right click on my clip in Premiere, replace with After Effects Comp. And again, if you guys only have After Effects, just start with it.
After Effects.
First steps first, we're going to select that footage and we're going to click Control D to duplicate. So click Control D. And now we're going to go ahead and start organizing a bit. We're going to right click and we're going to rename that duplication. And we're going to rename that to face. We're also going to select original footage and we can just name that original footage. All right, so on our face layer, we're going to go ahead and do some facial tracking, and this is going to be the basis for how we set up that kind of face split. So let's select this face layer here. You're going to want to hold down Alt, click this until you have your ellipse tool, or you can click Q on your keyboard and just click and drag that over our face so that the circle is selecting only his face. Now what you can do is this will open up this mask here on our layer. If you're not seeing that, just click M on your keyboard. Make sure that your timeline's at the beginning here. Right click on that mask and go to Track Mask. It'll pop open your tracker window here. You're going to see your method. You want to click that drop down and put that on Facial Tracking Detailed Features. And then we can go ahead and just click play. And the facial tracker in After Effects is pretty good, so you should have a pretty good result with this. As you can see, there's what the facial track is looking like. And if we hide our original footage here just by clicking this little eye, you'll see now we have a layer of just the face completely tracked. What we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this face layer one more time so that we can have this all ready to go to come back to whenever we need it. We'll click Control D. And we're going to split this into two halves, the right side and the left side, as you can see here. So let's go back here. So let's right click and we're going to rename this to right face. And you can hide this bottom face footage for now. Now there's one more important step before we just go ahead and draw this mask. If you originally were just to draw a quick mask, it would bring in all this excess here, which we don't want. So to apply our new mask to what we already have here, we're actually going to right click on this right face and we're going to pre-compose it. So click pre-compose, and instead of leaving all the attributes here, we're going to click move all attributes into new composition. So now you have a layer here, which is literally just our masked out comp. And if you go into that pre-comp, you'll see here's the actual masked version, but now we have a layer, just the cutout face. So now we can mask this layer. So make sure you pre-comp first or it's not going to work. So grab your pen tool. Now we can cut this right down the middle. Now you'll see when we connect it, it's not bringing in the excess, it's only selecting half of the face. Now the only issue here is if we play this through, you'll see it's not really matching with our face. So we're going to track mask what we've done here by using the facial tracking feature that we used earlier. So to do that, again, we're just going to click M to bring up our mask options. We're going to right click on the mask and we're going to click Track Mask, and we're going to do the same exact thing. We're going to select Facial Tracking Detailed Features. So click play and you'll see it's doing a pretty decent job here. So now let's go back and now we have the right side of the face isolated and it's tracked pretty well. As you can see, if you need to make any adjustments, you guys can open up your mask options. You guys can change the expansion. You guys can feather. I recommend not feathering now. We'll do that later. But to get the left side of our face, it's very easy. We're just going to Control D to duplicate that right side. We're going to click M to bring our mask up on our duplication and just change our mask from add to subtract. So now we can right click, rename this to left face, and we can rename this to right face. So now we've isolated both sides of the face here. You'll see if I hide this, there's the left face. If I hide this, there's the right face. and it's all tracked and ready to go. You'll see there's even a tiny seam here, but not to worry, because what we're going to do now, we're going to crack this face open, and to do that, it's very easy. We're just going to add some rotation. But before we do that, we're going to change the anchor point, and here's why. So if we just crank the rotation, this is going to rotate at the center point of where our anchor is. Now we want this to rotate so that it's kind of going like this. So to do that, we're going to click this tool next to our camera tool, the pan behind or anchor tool. So you can click Y. Find the middle anchor point, which is this kind of target. Place that where you want this rotation to be. So we want it to be kind of at the chin. Now when we actually do our rotation, you're going to see it's rotating at that anchor point right here. So that's the importance of the anchor tool. That's what allows you to make this accurate rotation. And by rule of thumb, you guys can make this rotation whatever you want. I've been using -17. And then on our right side of the face, we're going to do the same thing. So select it, change the anchor point to the chin, and we'll make our rotation. If we go to transform here, here's rotation. We'll make that +17. So there you go. And now we can also bring back our original footage, and you'll see what that's looking like all added in. So it's a pretty cool look. If you guys are doing some quick effects, if you don't want to really go down the rabbit hole with this one, this in of itself is a pretty interesting thing that you could put onto a music video or whatever. So now let's get into the customization. We're going to take this from just a creepy looking face to some different options, what you can do with it, making it look like it's really a split face, and then adding that cool Takashi Murakami style eye onto it. Okay, so a quick rundown of the options that you have available to you at this point in time. So if you don't like how fine this edge is here, what you can do is you can always just click M on these layers here, open up your mask, and then you'll see your feather. The more you feather that, the more this is going to be blended. So if you want to go for a more blended look like this, and that kind of makes this interesting meshed face as well. So we can do that with the left. Let's open up mask, blend it in. Say for example, you don't want any of this top part of the mask. You could always pop into the pre-comp, and you could create a new mask just by clicking like this. Say you want the forehead taken out of this, click M and subtract, and then we can feather that a bit as well. Now if we go back into our main comp, you're going to see now that's blended in like that. So there's a lot you can really do with it. It doesn't have to be split face. We're going to stick to what I did with the original. So we're going to go ahead and just delete the subtraction off here, pop back in, and we're going to make this feather only 4 pixels on both of them. Actually make both of these 3D layers. So you'll see this little 3D checkbox, 3D cube. You can check that on for both of them. If you're not seeing that, you may need to click toggle switches and modes depending on what version of After Effects you're using. Toggle those into 3D layers. And now if we just select the layer with our normal pointer tool, you'll see our blue axes. We can actually drag that a bit towards us, and you can reposition this however you want. All right, so go ahead and transform those around, design them however you like. You can feather them. Now I'm going to show you what I did to kind of add a little bit more depth onto this. Now, the very basic of adding a little bit more depth, and what I mean by that is just showing that this is a little bit of a distance away from our original face, is by adding a drop shadow. All you need to do is select your layer, go up to layer, and then go down to layer styles, and then add a drop shadow. We're going to open up drop shadow. We're going to take our angle, and we're just going to change that until we see it on the outside edge here. Now we're going to take our size here, and we're just going to pull that up a bit. And you'll see now we have the shadow going down on our face, and it just kind of adds to that illusion that this is kind of hovering above the face. Now another thing you can do is you can take these chunks that you have here, Control D to duplicate them again. And we're going to right click and rename this duplication to say inside right face. And what we can do is just click and drag a little bit over to the left until you see that showing through like that. And now we're going to replace this to kind of make it look like it's a little bit fleshy, or like it's the inside, to add some depth. So I had this flesh texture. I'll leave a link to this. Pretty gross. I think it's the inside of a mouth, but we're just going to use this as a little placeholder. We'll place it in a layer below. You're going to want to click track matte on your flesh texture inside right face. And then you'll see, and I can even click and drag and try and find like an accurate place for what I want it to look like. If you want to move the actual layer, you select the actual matte and just drag that in or out however you like it. Go ahead and do that for the other side of the face. And this is kind of peeking over top of our right face, so we can even select both of those and place them below. So now they're kind of neatly both tucked in. And there you go. And again, this is such a basic way of doing this. There's a lot more you can do. Some other cool little things that I was kind of messing around with, but didn't really fully go into, is you'll see you can even place some kind of blood layers. If you want to have that kind of head split, you can place any kind of images like this. So in terms of compositing, I'm really just showing you the absolute basics. This is what my original looked like, and I even add a little bit more depth. So to do that, what I even did was I just took these inside parts here and I just duplicated them. So Control D, and then let's duplicate another flesh texture, make sure it's lined up. What I did was I just went to my effects and presets, looked up a little fill effect, and then I kind of made it a lighter pinker color. And then I adjusted where that was to kind of add a little bit more depth into there, so it looks like there's some more layers onto it. All right guys, and that's the basics of how to do this. Now let's get into designing these cool Murakami looking eyes. And what I did was I just used the reference image, and you guys can do this with any other creative looking eye, whether it's from some sort of show, anime, artwork, whatever it is. Have your reference image up and get ready to create it. What we're going to do is we're going to pop into our original face layer. So we have our right face pre-comp. We're just going to double click, go into that. Double click to go into here. Now we're in our base footage layer. So we're going to want to do a little track here. So we're going to right click on that. We're going to go to track and stabilize, and we're going to click track motion, and it should reset the footage. That's perfectly fine. This is just creating our track. So we're going to place that over our eye. And before we do that, let's create a little spot for our tracking information. So we're going to right click down here and go to new and then null object. And we'll rename this to left eye track info motion trackers. Here's tracker 1. So once you set that up, it'll open up your tracker window again, what we used for the face track. This time we're just going to do a simple motion track. So let's click edit target, and we're going to set the target to the null that we just created, this left eye track info. So we'll go to layer, left eye track info, click OK. And now what we're going to do is we'll zoom in here, and we're going to resize this to be the relative size of our eye. So we'll put the big box along the ridge, smaller box starting in the pupil, and now we're going to go ahead and click play. So here is our track. We can go ahead and click apply. X and Y is fine, just click OK. And now you'll see we have a null that is tracked onto our eye. So this red box is the null we created, and this is a placeholder. You'll see it created all these keyframes. So now we can parent anything to follow that tracking information. If that doesn't make sense to you, no worries. As we go along, just keep following. It's very easy. It's going to make sense. So we're just going to do the same thing for the other eye. So again, have your reference image open. We have a good look of the eye here. To create this eye, it's pretty easy. We're just going to create some rings. So the first ring is a yellow one on the left side, and then it goes red, blue, yellow, blue, red. So we're going to use shape layers. So let's go over to the left eye. Let's just grab our little ellipse tool here. Let's just draw a tiny little circle for now. And then if we open up the options for the shape layer, you'll see ellipse 1. Open that up. We're going to make the fill opacity 0, so we only have a stroke. And for that stroke 1, we're going to change the color to yellow. We have our yellow ring, and this is going to be our first one. Select that anchor point, put it in there so you can scale it without it moving all crazy. Now it'll scale around the anchor point. So we'll have a small little yellow ring here, and it's as easy as just clicking Control D to duplicate it. You pop into the options of that duplication, so contents, ellipse, stroke, and you just change the color. So the next one, check our reference, is a red ring. So we'll pop into After Effects. We'll make this one red. And then we'll click S to scale. So click S on your keyboard, crank that up till it's around here. And then we just keep repeating those steps. Next one is a dark blue circle. You'll see there's even some light reflections in the eye here, so we're going to add that in as well, just using shape layers again. So we'll go back in After Effects, Control D, and this time we're going to open up contents, and instead of having a stroke here, we're going to put the fill at 100%, make it white, and then we can just scale it down and have it as a kind of light reflection. And we'll put 3 of those. And once you've done all of that, we can select all of our shape layers here. We can hold down Shift, click, and select them all. right click, and then pre-compose them. And we'll name this to eye design. Click OK. And now we can just reposition this by clicking S to scale again and placing that in a relative area around our eye. And now again, we did the tracking info earlier, so all we need to do is click this parent and link and just link this to our left eye track info. If you scroll along, you'll see now it's following along with the eye. So easy as that. So now all we really need to do is do some masking and blending to actually make this not look weird, but it is following along the general path. So to do that, just select, grab a mask pen tool, so click G, and we're going to want to mask around the eye here. Connect that, and you'll see now it's kind of within the pupil. So now we can click M to bring up our mask options here, and now we can feather it. So I usually went for around 4 pixel feather with a -2 mask expansion, something like that. You guys can of course customize those numbers depending on your footage, and there you guys go, easy as that. So for the other side, you may need to do some adjustments with the mask here. To do that, you just go to mask path, keyframe it, scroll a bit, and then you can do any adjustments as needed. That's just an example, but that option is available to you if you do need it. To place this on the other eye, click Control D to duplicate that, and we rename this to eye design right. And all you need to do is change your parent to the right eye track, and then just change your positioning as well. And we're also going to redo this mask. And to save time so you don't have to recreate every single little eye, of course, you could do it from scratch, or you could just go to effects and presets, search up the HLS effect, and then just drag and drop that and change the hue until you get something that looks pretty cool. There you go. You have 2 Takashi Murakami looking eyes. So if we pop back into our main comp, here's what that is looking like. Now, if you want to get them on the inside of the face, it's very easy. All you need to do, let's again double click back into our comps here. So you have, this is your main face tracked comp. You can just select, you can just hold down shift here, grab your eye design right, your eye design left, and the tracking info. Control C to copy them. Let's pop back into our main comp. You'll see here it's dark eye on the underneath face. This is why we made this normal face layer that we've had hidden this whole time that just has the face track. We can now right click and pre-comp that, and we'll say that we'll name this inside eyes. Pop into there and then just click Control V. And there you go. Now the eyes are tracked on the inside of the face. We can go back to our comp, and there they are. All tracked, all ready to go. For the flowers that I added, I just looked up flowers PNG. Save a couple of these bad boys, show them in a folder, and then just drag them into After Effects and place them in a layer below all these chunks that we've cut out. So we'll place this here. Last thing I forgot to mention, if you want to make these eyes all crazy, I mentioned I use the HLS effect for our eyes. Remember the HLS effect? You can actually keyframe the hue, drag to the end, and then just crank that up so it goes crazy. Let's play that through, and you'll see now we have the animation aspect. If you want to do that on the other side, another cool little quick effect that you guys can throw in there, if you pay attention to the eyes on this main image here, they kind of bulge up. And if you want to create that simple little bulging effect on the eyes, what I did is, if we go back into After Effects, double click into either the left or right pre-composition, and you'll be brought to here, is I actually pre-composed these all into one, and then I added a little liquefy bulge animation. To do that, right click, pre-compose, move all attributes into this new comp, and we'll name this eye bulge. And then it's as simple as just going to your effects and presets and adding a little liquefy, drop that on there. I'm going to use the bloat tool under liquefy, so select that, little tiny bit, so like 150, and we're going to go to the middle here, and we're going to bloat it right there, something like that maybe. Distortion percentage, we'll put that at 100%, put it at 0, so it kind of grows like that. And that's where you get that kind of bulging look. So that's pretty cool. You have those kind of popping eyes, which kind of sells the little crazy trippy eye look that we have. If we go back into our main comp, you'll see that that has now taken effect. Well, I hope you guys did enjoy. It's a pretty cool look. I want to create a lot more stuff like this in the future. Again, follow me on Instagram to get the full final outcomes of these before they drop. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for supporting, and I'll see you guys in the next one.